All right, we are here with Brett Luskey of Fairmont Management Company. Thanks for jumping on, Brett.
Thanks for having me today, James.
All right, so Brett's based here in Dallas, and I think you guys are up to what 4 or 5, 6,000 units. I can't keep track of how many units you guys manage now.
I sometimes feel the same way, but we're at 5,000 units right now.
5,000 units plus or minus a couple thousand. So I appreciate you jumping on. Uh, you know, the question that let's start with maybe current owners, right? So you work with a lot of guys out there. What are you seeing from them? Like, why are they calling you on deals right now? What are you seeing from them?
Yeah, so we are. That's a good question because we're a third-party management company based in Dallas. We've been around for 30 years, right? So we have our portfolio ranges from owners that have managed or owned assets for the past 30 years. They have little to no debt. Owners that refied back in 15 through 17 that had long-term debt, and then really the ones that kind of put debt on their properties over the past 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
The guys that we've been talking with more than anybody are the ones that have put debt on in the past 2 to 3 years just from bridge loans. I'm sure you did quite a bit of those also just because it was kind of the hit thing to do. Where just mortgages of rates have gone up and people are struggling and that eats into the cash flow. What we are concentrating on these days, James, is the proverbial back door, keeping residents in place, right? Historically speaking, it's always been that, let them go, push the residents to market, because if they stay, they're paying market rent, and if they aren't staying, then we'll redo the unit and put somebody else in, right?
Right. They're paying below market rent right now. So if they leave, okay, no problem. We'll just do the rehab on the unit and then
That's right.
bring it up to market. Okay,
That's
gotcha.
right.
Yeah.
But just quick math says, if you're $100 below market, it's roughly $1,200 over the course of a year, right?
Right.
Well, if that unit turns around and it's vacant for a month, that's your $1,200, right? On top of the fact that you're spending $2,000 to $4,000 on just general unit turns, depending on flooring and appliances, to where it really starts to add up. So we have gone into a cash conservation mode at these properties, and a good paying resident means a lot right now.
Right. So if people are short on cash flow, really protecting sort of your occupancy, trying to improve sort of that renewal rate, I guess you could
Right.
say, and then not pushing. I mean, instead of bringing someone all the way up to market, maybe you're doing a $25 or $35 increase. It's sort of
If
what I've
that,
seen. If that, okay, so
yeah,
you're just keeping it.
if
Yeah.
that. So I mean,
Okay.
look, our job. People are going to move out of your property regardless,
Right.
right? What is a realistic thing that we can do, right, to decrease that turnover, right? Well, if somebody buys a house, we can't help that. If
Right.
somebody
Sure.
skips or they're evicted, you got to get them out.
Yeah.
But where we can control the renewal rate and take it up to from 65% to 80% right now over the course of the next, depending on how long you need it to go,
Right.
we're willing to work on that on a monthly basis.
Okay, so current owner is really focused on occupancy, really focused on keeping sort of the current residents happy. On new deals, you guys underwrite maybe a lot of deals, and in terms of pro formas, things like that. How are you guys underwrite new deals? What sort of dialogue with owners out there when they're buying these new transactions?
Well, we aren't underwriting as much as we were about a year ago,
everybody's
right?
everybody's doing half. Everyone's doing half the number of
Yeah,
properties,
yeah, yeah.
but then yeah.
No, it's good. So look, it's really looking at taxes, right? Making sure that you have an actual rate. Insurance, we've just seen it kind of just get juiced over and over again, and we're expecting another 10 to 15% increase over the next year. Well, do you have that built into your model? And also, what are just realistic expectations for rent? Look, whenever you buy a property from Fairmont or you buy one from another management company that's managed it, it's nice because the expenses, you can look at them, and if they look clean and even, that's probably historically speaking what a 1980s property is going to continue to do. But do you just have those realistic expenses from rent to, taxes and insurance that you really can either can control or at least know? And those are really the three. And we're looking at bad debt. That's kind of my very first number I look at. If you're consistently carrying $20,000 to $25,000 of bad debt a month, you need to realistically tell me and prove to me what we're going to do to get that number to 5,000 before I'm willing to change it.
So, okay. So there's a deal in the market right now, and it's $20,000 a month in bad debt. And there's no way in the submarket other properties are that high.
Okay.
So when you're looking at a property like that, and people are going to say this is a management play, obviously, because there's no reason that the bad debt should be 8, 9, 10%. I don't know what it is exactly.
Sure.
8, 9, 10%. That many people aren't paying. And so if someone handed you that property and said, all right, Brett, you're the new sheriff in town, what would you do to solve that? Do you rip the Band-Aid off right away? Just everybody, because it seems like, especially if you look in the T12, it's
right.
like every month. It's not just like,
Yeah. It's not that 1 or 2 months where it's you cleaned house. It's
cleaned out. Yeah.
So what is the underlying issue, right? You and I would discuss that. But until we get into there, I can't pinpoint it, right? And you need us to pinpoint it. So I'd also sit there and say, James, even if we can realistically tackle that issue, are you willing to put up with the pain for the next 6 months, right? Your business plan isn't going to immediately start. We have to clean house, and it's going to be a slog through it. Can you do it, and do you have the cash flow to maintain that, right? Because, again, on top of kicking out roughly 15 to 20 people a month, you got to turn those units.
Right.
Is the cash flow there? Well, it's not. Okay, then you might not need to buy it. Or, yeah, you know what? I have $2 million sitting in the bank. I want to do that. Let's go for it. But what I've seen, James, though, is it's more of a macro issue with the bad debt in the sense of if you're at 20,000 a month, right, just trending, the other properties right around the area probably are too. And again, what are you going to do that's realistically going to change that?
Okay. So maybe you need to reset the basis to some extent, and then also, you've got to clean house a little bit, and then probably rescreen, re-tenant a majority of the property to reset that deal. You touched on this. I mean, we're seeing it across majority of the DFW, but what are you seeing in terms of market rent on the front end? So we talked about renewals, but then what about market rent for new tenants coming in the door? And then I don't know if there's a difference between sort of A, B, and C that you're seeing out there.
So we are seeing more concessions sneak into our properties. And that's from Fort Worth to Irving to, Balk Springs to Garland. So it's everywhere, right? We're still getting the market rents.
Okay.
But we're giving the upfront with the help of, a concession to help you move
like
forward.
Half a month or
whatever. $300 off your first full month rent, or half a month, or each property is a little bit different, but we are seeing consistent concessions rolling throughout. Now, at the same time, we're still able to sign leases at that rate, which is great.
Sure. I remember we maybe did one of these interviews, or maybe we were just talking, and you're like, $1,000 for one bed is just too far. Like that was the threshold. You thought that was going to be the threshold that was going to break. But is there another threshold? Is there like some, or at this point, is it like irrelevant? Like the, inflation is just going to keep running and rents are just going to keep running? Because I feel like the way taxes, the way insurance is priced nowadays, just for owners not to lose money, they're gonna have to raise rents just because their expenses have gone up so much. Like, does it just keep running? Like, I feel like it just keeps running on rents. I mean, to some extent.
So we say that theoretically that works.
Yeah.
Let's just keep pushing rents. People are gonna have to pay. Well, your property looks a whole lot better whenever it's trending at 97% occupied rather than 91% occupied. So
Right.
would you rather, are you cool having your market rents at $1,000,
Right.
right, and trending at 91%, or would you rather have it at 925 and gain that extra 6% of occupancy? Because that's those extra 8 units that you lease, that's more or less $7,000-8,000 of income that you probably need right now.
Right. Okay.
So look, I wish that there was just one general magic bullet that we could shoot and fixes everything, but each property is so different, man, and each submarket's so different that we really look, man. So it's funny enough that bringing this up, we discussed a renewal plan at one property today. We still have 15 outstanding leases that need to be signed, right, for the month. That's a lot of money, right? All those people move out. Well, you're down 15 grand, right? Just taking $1,000 a month. So we were pushing all those people $75. Well, we made a change to swap it, just to kind of keep everybody flat for a little bit, just to see if it would tie in the 10 to 15, leases to get the majority of them to renew, with the acknowledgement that within a week and 2 weeks we're rediscussing it to see how it works. So there's a whole, if you aren't talking to your management company twice a month, just to kind of keep working and tinkering with things right now, you need to be doing it.
So, all right. So you touched on this in terms of best practices. So maybe a weekly call at the beginning, and then maybe go to every other week with, I guess, the regional and the staff. Is that pretty common?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
As quickly as our culture is at responding to emails, and I can shoot you a text, James, and you usually respond within 5 minutes, right?
Usually,
so
usually better to call me. It's usually better to call me. But
so our culture likes the instant gratification.
Sure. Yeah.
Apartment complexes don't work that way. If I change the market rent today, I can't tell you how many leases we have on Friday at the new rate, right? Because there's just not a long enough sample size. So it's almost to the benefit of everybody. Allow yourself to set a plan. And then in 2 weeks from now, you get to discuss that. But if you're asking the property management company every single day whether it's working, you're not going to be happy with the answer.
Yeah, no, I get that. And then, so is there anything else? So if I'm an asset manager, or, I own a couple of deals now and I got a third party property manager, I'm doing the every other week calls. We're going through that process. What else should I be doing? Like, as a general partner, like, what should I be walking the property? Should I be looking at rent comps? What else should I be doing? Maybe there's a CapEx plan at the beginning, but let's say we bought the deal 2 or 3 years ago. We sort of used our CapEx. Now we're sort of in maintenance mode. I don't want to sell the property right now.
Right.
What's sort of the rhythm, or what are the best GPs doing when they're working with you?
Sure. Well, that is what's beautiful about the apartment industry, right? The quote unquote mailbox money, because after a while whenever you first buy a property, there's a lot going on, but then hopefully it just kind of gets into that cruise control where rents moving up, expenses are staying about this. I mean, that's what you want, right? That's the goal, is to where I'm not talking to you every day.
Sure.
You pay us to do a job so that you can go out and play golf or tennis, or go to lunch and do whatever. But look, that's going to change week over week, James, just depending on what's going on at the property. If I need you out there, one of the best practices we do is, and we're not trying to hide anything, but let us know whenever you're going out to a property. If you live in Dallas, it's really easy to be bored and go. But allow us to help the managers be set up for success. So whenever you go to the properties, right, you can give them a high five and say, man, your property looks beautiful. Yeah. And I say that because the pat on the back really matters right now. We've seen a lot more movement with just employees throughout the industry. And if you have a good one, they're the key to your property, man. You have a great manager, everything's going to work a little bit better. So allow me to help you go out there and kind of give the high five at the end. That's one of the main things that we like.
And this seems like an easy question, but what makes a good property manager? or like how can you spot a good property manager? Because obviously, like I've heard of stories, the whole team left, or one day everything was good and then my guys were changed out and all of a sudden nothing's getting done. Delinquency's up, work orders are all over the place. What are sort of like the 2 or 3 characteristics that you look for in a good property manager?
Sure. Well, so the primary purpose of a property manager is leasing and collecting money. Fair statement, right?
Yeah.
You got to do one. You got to do 1 and 2, right? Also, putting in invoices, controlling the maintenance staff. We task our managers with being the boss of the properties. I'm not the boss of your property. The manager is the boss. If I'm the boss, Fairmont's not doing a good job. We got to have the right manager. Now, at the same time, we value loyalty and we love to promote from within. Why? Because these people have earned their spots, number one. But number two, I also like the predictability of knowing who's taking that next step up. I know strengths and I know weaknesses, right? So look, I would also have the realistic expectation that if you're buying a property right now, the staff that we are hiring, 100% of the staff will not be there in 3 months. There will be some turnover, right? So look, I can give a great interview. You can give a great interview. Your resume can be beautiful.
Right.
But until you get in there in the fire, you can't guarantee anything. So if you have a good manager, keep them. Pay him that extra $1, pay him that extra $2. It's worth it in the long run for your property.
Right. No, I mean, that's a huge piece. And, a lot of times I think this is one of the things that is always challenging. I think, lenders look at it, potential buyers look at it, and sometimes managers are called out in these the good old Google reviews. What are your thoughts on Google reviews? And are they fair or not fair, or how do you guys sort of manage that? Because I think before you go out to eat, you're gonna look at reviews. The same thing before you lease an apartment. I would look at a review before I lease an apartment. So, what are your thoughts on Google reviews?
Take them with a grain of salt. I think they help a little bit, man. But so we try to help our residents give 5-star reviews. Obviously, we don't want 1-star reviews. That's I mean, just plain and simple. A 5-star review looks better, right? But we also we try to give honest responses to people that give reviews. Now, we try to answer every review, but we try to give an honest review in the sense of, if you're complaining about bugs and you leave it on Google review and you haven't let us in for the past 5 times that we've had the exterminator out, we will specifically reference that in the reviews, right? So that whenever you're reading it, it's like, this lady's not just complaining about the 12 cockroaches, this lady's complaining about it. She's locking everybody out. So how can they actually help? Right. Push for them, try and get them. We try and come up with games for our managers and we reward them and whatnot. But it's look, somebody that's happy is going to be a lot less likely to leave a review than somebody that's pissed off.
Yeah. So a lot of 1s and a lot of 5s.
That's okay. Yeah. So you shoot for the 4, which means you have more 5s than 1s.
Yeah, and then if there's no 1s, then it's fake. So,
well, and so a lot of people, whenever they buy these properties, they go into it and they think that changing a name magically changes everything, right? Well, it could sort of the Google reviews, but then you've got a whole lot of other back stuff behind it that people are used to calling it X, and that's where the website's linked, and that's what the Facebook is. So before you just magically think that you're going to go in there and get rid of the reviews, actually read them and see if it's something pertinent, if something from 7 years ago, if it's 12 of them in the past 6 months type of a thing, before you just magically try and take the old eraser and change the name.
Yeah. I think what a lot of people in our industry is sort of just looking at right now is just they're expecting some amount of distress out there. Whether it's an occupancy issue or maybe it's just a loan issue. and sort of a short on cash flow at this time issue, what would your recommendation, especially like if we see some of these deals where, they're sort of teetering around 90%, but then they slip and now, it slips to 85, then 80, then 75, and you guys are going to have to go in there. What tips on underwriting something like that? Like, what are people missing? Or, I think every pro forma that I've seen, it basically takes today's occupancy and today's rent. It just goes up, right? Occupancy goes up, rents go up. But should people be underwriting a little bit differently, or what do people usually miss on distressed deals?
So if it were my deal and I was buying a 60% occupied property, right?
Right.
What is the cheapest amount of rent I can take for the first 20% of occupied units?
Okay.
The first 20% that are vacant that I'm putting online, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, my market rate's 750, but I'm okay leasing those at 500.
Okay.
Cool. Do as little as possible and lease those first 20%. Okay. Get the cash flow in. Okay, then take it from a 10% basis and start to tackle it that way, because $500 is $500 more than a vacant unit, right?
Sure.
So start to build up that cash flow, even if you're sitting there and looking at it from a 2 to 3 year hold where you eventually get everybody to market, rather than instantly pushing all 40% of those to market. That would be my number one goal.
Because it would be I guess it would take longer, obviously, and you might not get there in terms of market rate, right? So you need the cash flow to keep the deal going.
And theoretically, a classic unit is a lot cheaper to remodel, James, than a fully upgraded unit, right? So I'm okay at this point. If you're having cash flow issues, man, I'm cool with you putting carpet in your unit rather than putting vinyl plank, because it's about $1,200 difference right now.
Right.
So again, if you need a classic unit and you're getting $50 less in the market, put the carpet in and move on.
So I'm gonna give you a hard question I did not prepare you for. At what point, if you were to buy a deal, is a deal so cheap? Like at what number? So let's say a B deal in DFW was going for probably 150 to 200 a door in the heyday a couple years ago. At what number does that come down to that you're like, okay, now it's time to step in and start buying this deal? Is there a number in your head, or a price per unit that would make sense? If that question makes any sense, like what type of discount?
Do you have a property that you and I need to talk offline about?
No, I think there's gonna be stuff that's coming. I'm seeing stuff that's maybe, in that 125 a door range. I haven't seen a B deal in 100 a door quite yet. But
let me know whenever you do.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Look, a lot of that's going to depend on your financing and can you, fundraise the deals and where are you and stuff like that. I don't have a magic number on where I would get to.
Okay. All right. Anything else that we did not touch on that you are getting calls about that people should know about?
Man, we did a good job, James. It's really just shut the back. No, look, we're everybody that's listening to this, small properties, they're smart people, but have a realistic expectation on how you're operating your property right now. Realize that a good paying resident is more important than a potential resident paying at market rent, right? Like the old saying of a bird in the hand is better than one in the bush or something.
Two in the bush.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, like people matter, and if you can shut that back door, I think you'll be happy.
All right. What is, you're going to be at the big conference in 4 or 5 weeks. So I appreciate you guys sponsoring the Old Capital Conference. What is the best way for people to reach out if they have any questions now, before that event, about their property or, any potential new properties?
Yeah, sure. So anytime you're underwriting a deal with Old Capital, James loves to give our info away, so he has it already. But feel free to call me at my number 972-284-1045, or my email, which is Luskey, Luskey, at fairmontmanagement.com.
All right, Brett, always a pleasure. Thanks for jumping on, and I will see you in 4 or 5 weeks.
Hopefully before. Thanks,
All right,
James.
sounds good, man.
Take
I'll
care,
see you.
man.
All right, bye.